Hi there, everybody. Adam Cleary from FourFourTwo here, and if you will permit me the Seinfeld-esque opening, what's the deal with Mason Mount? It's a fair question, and one you've undoubtedly heard men of your father's generation loudly asking in pubs during World Cups. But if you're a Man United fan, right now, it's a pretty pertinent one. And that is because Erik Ten Hag is going to want to do a lot this summer with fairly limited resources. Like, they're going to want a number 9 who can score loads of goals. Spenny, they're going to want a goalkeeper who can play with the ball at his feet and get involved in the build-up. Spenny, so why is he funneling a fairly major chunk of his budget into the midfield, into the strongest area of the squad? Well, I'll tell you. Alright, so in its simplest terms, Erik Ten Hag really wants Mason Mount because the way Manchester United currently play and the way he would ideally like them to play are not the same, and Mason Mount is probably the best player available right now for bridging that gap. He messed around a lot with the shape and the formation, but this is pretty much what he settled on last season. Man United had their best run when they were playing like this. Casemiro and Eriksen became the preferred pivot in the middle, and Fernandes either played as number 10 or out off onto the right. But what we did see towards the end of the season was Manchester United either lining up or reverting into not a 4-2-3-1, but a 4-3-3. The idea being that it better enabled Bruno Fernandes to get on the ball in more influential areas, to be pretty much everywhere all at once. Casemiro, he would drop into a central area, he'd pretty much stay disciplined and stay there. Fernandes would then sort of drift into this right-hand side, he could pick up the ball anywhere he wanted, deep, high, didn't matter, wherever it was most effective, and that left a bit of a problem in this number 8 spot. If you're playing in a 4-3-3 and you've got one player who's going to be really disciplined and stay in front of the back four, and one player who's going to go everywhere chasing the ball, trying to get on it and impact the game, that puts a lot of emphasis on this other number 8 to do several different things. You have to cover a lot of ground in that role because you're not the most defensive midfielder and you're not the most creative midfielder, so you've got to be the one who leads the press. You've got to get into this space, you've got to come over to this area, that area, that area. Wherever you are needed, you need to be able to get there. And if your little buddy over there's pretty much got free reign to go wherever he wants to pick up the ball and just do the stuff that he's really good at, then you need to be good at recognizing the gaps he's leaving. If he goes back into the number 10 role, you've got to cover across from there. If he goes out to get involved with somebody there, you've kind of got to help more in the middle. If he comes across onto your side, you've just got to move. So you need to be intense, you need to be intelligent, you obviously need to be technically gifted, and you play for Manchester United, so you still need to be able to offer an attacking threat all of your own. And the reason Ten Hag never fully committed to this 4-3-3 last year, while we only saw it in fits and starts, is because they didn't have this player that was going to bring it all together. Christian Eriksen is obviously technically fantastic, he reads the game really well, he understands space, but he's not the most intense player. He can't lead the press for you. He wants to play a little deeper. Fred has got that intensity, he can go pretty much anywhere, he's got an engine for days, but he maybe doesn't read the game as well. He's maybe not technically as good, so he's not quite the right player either. And Scott McTominay is just sort of somewhere between the two. Not a great fit. Now, whatever system Man United end up playing next year, they're still going to want a goal scorer and they're still going to want a new goalkeeper, but if they want to play this way, which clearly Erik Ten Hag thinks they should, they need this player. They need a specific person to do this job. And that brings us nicely to Mason Mount. Technically on the ball, he's absolutely excellent. Like his dead balls, his passing, everything like that is top tier. He's one of the most intense pressers out of central midfield in the Premier League, whether he's playing in the front three or the middle three. He leads the press, he spots traps, it's just his brain works really, really well. And when it comes to covering areas and covering space, the kid understands space better than Jean-Luc Picard. And on top of all that, he's a fantastic carrier of the ball. Like if you look at the profiles of Fernandes and Casemiro, who you'd imagine he'd start with, if they get the ball back deep, he can run that up the other end of the pitch. He can turn defense into attack really easily. But the way to think about Mason Mount is he has all the best attributes of both Eriksen and Fred, while still having the defensive intensity of Casemiro, and while he's nowhere near Bruno Fernandes' levels, when it comes to offering a goal threat, being able to provide assists, he's not a massive drop off from there. Wow, that all sounds amazing, Adam. Can you prove any of that? Yes I can. Just to illustrate how bad Chelsea's season has been, these are Mason Mount's stats for his attacking contribution last season, and whoa, they're really bad. But they are crucially all massive drop-offs from previous seasons. Like the 2 seasons leading up to the last one, he was in the top 5 in the Premier League across both seasons for just goal involvement, whether that was being in the build-up, giving an assist, scoring the goal himself. He was in the top 5 of the entire league. So I would suggest that if you put him in a better side, one that is capable of actually taking chances, or where there's a lot of other teammates capable of creating them for you, he would return to somewhere near those sort of numbers and not these. Oh, Jesus. The thing is, despite the fact Chelsea have been toilet this year, he's still been able to do really good work elsewhere. Like, first of all, if we look at his defensive numbers compared to other midfielders in the Premier League, nobody is doing it like Mason Mount. He's right at the top of the rankings for tackles in both the middle and the attacking third. Nobody is dribbling around him by the looks of it, which is very important for stopping counter-attacks, and somehow he's just got the highest number of blocked shots out of midfielders and attackers, which is, how does that happen? Sorry, that was a bit Seinfeld as well, wasn't it? How does that happen? What are you blocking shots for? Now, nobody's come up with a stat yet that shows you how good someone is at recognizing areas of space and getting into them. You need the eye test for that, and for the eye test, let's go to the Champions League final. Now, this is probably Mason Mount's single biggest contribution in a Chelsea shirt, and in this game, him and Havertz were both playing as like false 10s off Timo Werner, which sounds crazy, but that was actually really good for Mount. Now, in this system, Timo Werner's job was to make loads of runs all over the place, try and pull defenders around and create space. Kai Havertz's job was to exploit that space centrally, and Mason Mount's job was to then go all the way across the pitch, left to right, either flank, in the middle, and find whatever other pockets of space that then created. And this, for their goal, worked absolutely beautifully. The ball comes out from the goalkeeper to, I think that's Chilwell over on the left-hand side, and Kyle Walker is the player who has to then push on to close him down. Now, because Walker's pushed out, he could very easily go into the channel with this, and indeed if Chilwell brings the ball down and wants to take a touch, that's where he's going to go. But because his run was so good, Chilwell has the option to just drop it into him first time, and he's now found all this space on the halfway line. And because Mount has moved into this position and gotten onto the ball, that forces a bit of a knock-on effect with the Man City back line that allows his two teammates to do their work. Stones has to come across to keep an eye on Mount. That leaves a gap for Werner to run into, which pulls Diaz away, meaning that Havertz, who's now found that bit of space near Zinchenko, can run into the gap that's been left. Now, I could show you a few other clips of him running down the channel, of getting into the half spaces. Basically, he's very good at finding these areas, either for a first-time pass or to be an option for somebody else. But I want to stay on this goal because obviously the big question about him playing for Man United is, can he provide enough threat? And this is not an easy ball to play. Yeah, he's got a big area to hit with a pass, but the weight of it has to be far enough in front of Havertz that he can get a proper run away from Zinchenko, but not so far ahead of Havertz that the goalkeeper is capable of coming out and sweeping it up. It might not look it, but honestly, the margin for error in this pass is about that much. I'd say, like, if it's that short, then Havertz has to slow his run down and Zinchenko catches him up. But if it's that long, then it's just too far ahead and Ederson will clean it up. It's a fucking brilliant pass. And that is, I think, why Mason Mount is probably worth the money, because you could go and get loads of different players who'll do the brain stuff, who'll do the running, who'll cover the space. But to combine that with somebody who is as good on the ball, there aren't many out there. Like, for how bad Chelsea have been this season, how in and out of the side he's been, how many different positions they've utilised him in, his passing numbers are still excellent. And the one stat I think it's really important to look at there is the progressive passes. Now, if you don't know what a progressive pass is, it's basically just anything that moves the ball forward around about 10 yards or any pass in the penalty area, but it doesn't count any forward passes that come out of your defensive third. So you can't just knock it sideways, you can't just knock it long. It's got to be something in a really useful part of the pitch that moves you closer towards the goal. For a bit of context, Man United fans, Mason Mount here is in the 93rd percentile, which means he's in the top 7% across the season. Bruno Fernandes, who you'd rightly think of as your best player for progressing the ball, is in the 95th percentile, so the top 5%. Like, he's way better than Mount at a number of different things, but when it comes to this just basic ability to move the ball closer to your opponent's goal, to make the situation more dangerous, he's not a massive drop-off. And even the stats that aren't mind-blowing there, like his number of key passes, his passes into the final third, his passes into the penalty area, they're still really, really good numbers for someone playing this kind of role whose main job is to fill gaps and move around and press your opponent. I know we're kind of tiptoeing into the territory of that Simpsons joke about the thing with Jazz is you have to listen to all the notes they're not playing, but if you want to use this kind of system, which Ten Hag clearly believes would get the most out of Fernandes, is a great use of Casemiro, allows you to have a really good ball-playing centre-back, would probably do way more for the two wide attackers, and whatever number 9 they get in would suit him really well. The player that makes that work is this sort of workhorse, creative, pressing number 8. Like, this is the most vague and nebulous thing I'm ever going to say, but if Man United put Mason Mount in this system and he gelled with his teammates and it all worked the way it's supposed to, they would just magically look better in an attacking sense and look more solid in a defensive sense without you really being able to put your finger on why. But watch, you can. Look, I'll do it. Here's the finger, and there's me putting it on the reason. Mason Mount. Ten Hag clearly values positional intelligence as well, by the way. If you look at the number of positions Mason Mount has played in just for Chelsea this season, they've had him as a false 9, they've had him as a number 10, they've had him as part of 2 10s, they've had him out wide on the left, out wide on the right, they've had him in a midfield 3 on both the left and right, and they've had him as a pivot in a 2. Ten Hag loves to swap between formations and systems mid-game, so Mason Mount is, in that regard as well, absolutely perfect for him. Anyway, I know it's dividing opinion amongst Man United fans, and it still is a lot of money if the budget is as small as being reported. So let me know if this has changed your mind, or if you still don't want him, or if you wanted him all the time from the beginning in the comments below. And of course, it's FourFourTwo. It's the greatest football YouTube channel in the world. So please subscribe to it. What was that? In the meantime, though, thank you very much for watching. You can get me on Twitter at Adam Cleary, CLERY. The new FourFourTwo with the Lionesses on the cover is available now from all good retailers and the crap ones as well. But until next time, hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.